So we begin a new Perek Klal Gadol. This Perek will discuss many of the malachas of Shabbos. The Mishnah, which discusses all and enumerates all 39 malachas, is in this Perek. But before we get there, the Gemara will first discuss a person that's machal Shabbos b'shoigig, inadvertently. There are different kinds of scenarios when that happens in the same Shabbos, over the span of a few Shabboses. And the question is, how many karbanos chatos is he chayiv to bring? Let's begin the Mishnah. Zok the Heilige Mishnah, Klal Gadol Omru b'Shabbos. There was a major rule that was said regarding Shabbos. And the Mishnah gives us three cases. The first case, Kol ha'shecheyach ikke Shabbos. One that forgot about Shabbos altogether. Doesn't know about the existence of the mitzvah of Shabbos. V'asa malachis harbe b'Shabbosis harbe. And he did many malachis even over the span of more than one Shabbos. Ein chayev elo chatos achas. He's only chayev for all of the malachis that he did, only one karban chatos, because it's all one shegig. The fact that he forgot or he has no idea of the existence of Shabbos. The days in between one Shabbos and another don't separate between one Aveda and another. It remains one helim, one shegig that he forgot. Next case in the Mishnah, Hayideya ikke Shabbos, he has awareness of the mitzvah of Shabbos. That's not what he forgot. He knows of the mitzvah of Shabbos. V'os malachis harbe b'Shabbosis harbe, and he did many malachis over the span of many Shabbos. What happened? So as Rashi explained, what happened was he didn't realize that today is Shabbos. He wakes up Shabbos morning and he forgets what day of the week it is. So he didn't know that today is Shabbos. So in such a case, chayiv al kol Shabbos v'Shabbos. He'll be chayiv for the malachas that were done on each Shabbos, one for each Shabbos. And as Rashi explains, the reason is because when he forgot on one Shabbos that it's Shabbos, then he has the days in between. Those days in between separate between the shegig of this Shabbos and the shegig of next Shabbos. Because in the days in between, he probably remembered what day of the week it is. He realized his mistake, that he didn't understand when Shabbos was, and when the following Shabbos comes, and he forgets again what day of the week it is. He wakes up in the morning, he doesn't know it's Shabbos. It's a new shegig. So therefore it's two separate shegigs, so he's chayiv for each Shabbos separately. Tosfos disagrees with Rashi, mentioned Bekitzer. Tosfos says the reason why in such a case when he forgot that it's Shabbos, he didn't know that this day is Shabbos, it's a mistake of the day of the week. The reason why one Shabbos is separated from another Shabbos is not because you have the days in between when a person could remind himself. Tosfos says it's Gzeiras HaKosov, that the days in between separate, whether he remembered in between, whether he didn't remember in between, it doesn't make a difference. The third case in the Mishnah, Hayideya Shehu Shabbos. He knows of the mitzvah of Shabbos. He's aware that today is Shabbos. So what was his mistake? Why did he do the malacha b'shegig? V'asa malachis harbe b'Shabbosis harbe. He did many malachis even over the span of many Shabboses, and what he didn't realize is that the particular malacha that he's doing is forbidden. For example, he cooked on Shabbos, and he didn't know that bishul is a malacha on Shabbos. Chayiv al kol av malacha umalacha. In such a case, it's chayiv one karban chatos for each av malacha. So if you repeated bishul again and again over the span of many Shabboses, since it's one shegig, that he did not know that bishul is a malacha, he's chayiv only for bishul, only for one malacha of bishul. And Rashi explains, even if you have the days in between that separate, and l'chayre, the person could remind himself, like we said in the second case of the Mishnah here, but it's not the same, says Rashi. In a case where a person forgot the day of the week, it's likely that in between the days, he remembers what day of the week it is. So the next Shabbos, if he forgot again, it's a new shegig. But regarding a person that has no idea that cooking is asur on Shabbos, so unless he's going to learn in between, he's not going to know. There's no reason to assume that the days in between will remind him that cooking is forbidden on Shabbos. So therefore, it's considered to be one shegig. If it's the same malacha, it's one shegig even if it's over many Shabboses. If he did many malachas, another malacha, up to 39 malachas, will be chayiv to bring 39 karbanos chatas. Zok the Mishnah weiter, oise malachas harbe. If one does many malachas, let's say on one Shabbos, he was over b'shegig on many malachas. Me'ein malacha achas, but they're all part of the same malacha. Right? For example, you have the malacha of Zeireya. Zeireya has many different scenarios of how that happens. Zeireya planting a tree, Noiteya is a tree, Zeireya is planting vegetables, or you have a person that's pruning, that's also a part of Zeireya, or maybe a Toilda of Zeireya. So he did many malachas that are all connected and part of the same malacha, Av, together with Toildas. So then, although the person did an action of Chilul Shabbos more than once, but he's only chayiv one time. But if you do many malachas, so then you chayiv each malacha separately. As the Gemara will bring the psukim, that there's a separate carbon for each malacha that you do, even though it's one concept of Chilul Shabbos. So the Mishnah here is going to begin with, so the Gemara that is going to begin with the statement or the terminology that the Tana uses, klal gadol. What's the meaning of klal? Why are we using this expression of a major rule? My time etana klal gadol. What's the reason? The Tana of the Mishnah says this is a major rule. Is the reason because later, the next Mishnah, the Tana will bring another rule, and that's less complex, that has less details than this rule. So therefore, Tana klal gadol, so the style of the Tana is, if he's going to say two rules, and the first is a more important, a more major rule, and the second, is less important or less complex, so the Tana uses the expression klal gadol, and we find another place a similar thing, v'gabe shvius nami, regarding Shemitah as well, mishum de kaboy lemisni oid klal acher, the Tana over there in Shvius. So he begins the Pedic with one klal, and it says there klal gadol, and that's because later on in the Mishnah it says another klal. So therefore it uses the terminology klal gadol. So therefore Tana klal gadol. So on the first time it says klal gadol, and the second time, which is a less complex rule, less of a major rule, so therefore it says klal gadol. So that would be an explanation for here and for the Mishnah in Shvius. But there's a third scenario. Gabe meiser, in the case of meiser, the toni klal acher, it does say a second rule. Over there you have the same thing. The Tana begins in the beginning of the Pedic using the terminology klal gadol. Later on in the Pedic there's another klal, but it does not actually use the terminology of klal gadol. It says a klal and another klal without saying klal gadol, that it's a major rule. V'leitani klal gadol does not say klal gadol. So why by Shabbos and by Shemitah does it say klal gadol, and by Meiser does it not? Rabbi Yosi bar Oven answers the Gemara. Rabbi Yosi bar Oven said, Shabbos u'Shvius the ispuhu oves v'toildes. Shabbos and Shemitah have included in the Isser oves and toildes. As we know, as we just learned regarding Shabbos, there's the oves malachis, and then the toildes, the branches that come out of those malachis. And the same is also regarding Shemitah. You have those malachis, which happens to be this week's Parshas Bahar. There are those malachis of working in the field that are also to do on Shemitah, Zriyah, Ktsirah, Charisha, and then there are toildes similar to Shabbos. Those malachis that are similar to those malachis that are in the field are also also. So therefore, since both Shabbos and Shemitah have all of these details, it has the root, the av, and the toildes, the branches that come out, Tana klal, so Tana gadol. The Tana uses the term gadol, that this is a major rule referring to something that has more details to it, av and a toilde. Meiser, the lesba, ovis for toildes. Meiser that does not have ovis and toildes, loy Tana klal gadol. The Tana does not use the same expression of klal gadol. Fragt the Gemara, Ola bar kaporem. But how about according to bar kaporem, in his braises where he taught the mitzvah of meisres, the tani klal gadol b'meiser, he does use the expression of klal gadol b'nigeya to meiser as well. My avos or my toildes ikke. So what kind of a avos and toildes, according to bar kapore, is there regarding meiser? There isn't. So if the reason the Tana uses the expression klal gadol is only because of the avos and toildes, it wouldn't explain why Bar Kapara used that lashon regarding meiser. So therefore the Gemara gives another answer. Ella rather lav hainu taima. This is not the reason. Gadol ein shel Shabbos yoser mishal shvius. So the reason is as follows, because the einish for Shabbos, the details that are included in Shabbos, and therefore the einish for desecrating Shabbos is more than Shemitah. The ilu Shabbos, the mitzvah of Shabbos, isa bein betolosh, bein b'mechuber. The Isser Malacha applies to things that are not connected to the ground, many malachas that are not in things that are working in the field, and then there are things that are also mechuber, beneged to things that are connected to the ground. Vilu Shviyas, when it comes to Shemitah, betolosh lese, b'mechuber isa. Anything that has been disconnected from the ground before Shemitah, when Shemitah arrives, it's not part of the halacha of Shemitah. It's been cut off the ground before Shemitah. Only things that are mechuber in the ground to the ground when Shemitah arrives, that's what Shemitah pertains to. Okay, so therefore we see that Shabbos is more stringent than Shemitah. Then the Gemara goes further. The Gadol Einsha Shel Shviyas. Similar, we can say that Shemitah is more stringent min haMeiser, more than the mitzvah of Meiser. The Ilu Shviyas is bein b'maychal adam bein b'maychal behema. The halachas, the mitzvah of Shemitah applies both to foods for a human being and foods for the animal. Vilu Meiser, on the other hand, when it comes to Meiser, b'maychal adam isa, the mitzvah of Meiser only applies to food that is for human consumption. But food that's only designated for Ma'achal Behema, there is no mitzvah of Meiser. So therefore we see that Shemitah is more stringent than Meiser, and therefore the Tana uses the term Klal Gadol by Shabbos, because it's a major rule more important than something else, more important than Shemitah. And by Shemitah it says Klal Gadol, that it's a major rule more important than Meiser. So now based on this, we can apply the same logic according to Bar Kapara. According to Bar Kapara, he does use the terminology Klal Gadol regarding Meiser as well. What's the reason? Gadol Einsha Shel Meiser Yosem Shel Peya. The Einish, the mitzvah of Meiser, is more stringent, includes more details than the mitzvah of Peya. When it comes to the mitzvah of Meiser, Isa b'te'ena v'yerek. The mitzvah of Meiser applies even to figs and to vegetables. The Gemara will soon explain what's unique about figs and vegetables. But the mitzvah of Meiser applies even to these two, and as Rashi says, it applies only midrabanan. Vilu Peyeh, lesse b'te'ena v'yerek. The mitzvah of Peyeh, which is allowing the leftovers in the corner of the field for the poor people to come and collect for themselves, over there, Chachamim did not make the takana of Peyeh by fig trees or by vegetables. Where do we see this distinction? The Tanam we learned on a Mishnah, Klal Omru b'Peyeh, the rule was said regarding Peyeh. Kol shehu oichel v'nishmar, if it's food, if it's protected, v'gidule min ha'aretz, it grows from the ground, v'likitase ka'achas, and you collect it, it all ripens at the same time, you collect it at the same time, u'machnisa l'kiyum, and it can be brought into a storage to store it, chayev b'Peyeh. If it has these things, these details here, then it's chayev in Peyeh. So the Gemara explains what exactly each one of these things is coming to exclude. Oichel, it has to be food. Lemute sviche stis v'kaitza, comes to exclude aftergrowth of stis v'kaitza, which is certain kinds of things that grow, as Rashi says, that are used to make dyes out of it, not used for human consumption. So that's not an oichel. Nishma has to be food that's protected. What does this come to exclude? Lemute hefke, excluding what grows in a place of hefke that's ownerless. Gidulei min ha'aretz, it grows from the ground. Lemu'ute kmein epitriais. This comes to exclude mushrooms and truffles that do not receive, that is, their nourishment from the ground. Lekitasai ka'achas, that it has to be collected all at the same time. Lemu'ute te'ena. This comes to exclude figs. The fig tree does not all ripen at the same time. It ripens over a period of time, some before, some later. It's not all collected at the same time. It could be brought to be stored in a storage house. This excludes vegetables. The vegetables cannot be preserved for a long time. This is what it says regarding Peyah. All of these details, exactly what is Chayev and Peyah. But on the other hand, regarding the mitzvah of Meiser, it says, Klal Amru over here, so all they said a Klal Amru b'Meiser, Kol Shu Oichel v'Nishmar v'Gidulim min ha'aretz, if it's food, if it's protected, if it grows from the ground, Chayiv b'Meiser. It's Chayiv in the mitzvah of Meiser, whether min ha'Torah or min ha'Rabbanan. V'ilu l'kitase ka'achas, u'machnise l'kiyom leitnan. The other details mentioned by Peah, that it has to be collected at the same time, and it has to be fit for being stored, that it doesn't mention. So therefore, Meiser is chayiv more than Peah. It's even chayiv on a fig tree that is collected over a period of time, and it's also chayiv in vegetables that cannot be stored in a storage. So therefore, regarding Meiser, it uses the term Klal Gadol because it's a more important mitzvah. It includes more than something else, which is Peah. That's the conclusion of the Gemara's explanation of the term Klal Gadol in our Mishnah. Now the Gemara turns to the first case that in the Mishnah. What did it say in the Mishnah? Kol hashecheyach ikke Shabbos, a person that has no idea of the mitzvah of Shabbos. In such a case, will be chayiv one korban chatas for all the malachas, even if he does it over a span of many Shabboses. So the Gemara is going to address what exactly is the case here. Zok the Gemara, Rav u'Shmuel the Amri tarvayu. Rav and Shmuel both said that the pshat of the Mishnah is as follows. Mas Nisin, our Mishnah, is speaking about betinik shenishbala ben anochrim, a child that has been captured amongst Goyim at a very young age, and he was raised amongst Goyim, and he has no idea about Shabbos. This is the source of this terminology that's brought in many places in halacha, a tinik shenishba, a child that grows up in a place where he doesn't know what Shabbos is. That's the simple pshat of the meaning tinik shenishba. But this concept of tinik shenishba more loosely can be applied in any case where a person grows up and he's not educated, he's not taught, he has no idea what Shabbos is really about. In today's day and age, most people, or many, I'm saying most people that are not keeping Shabbos, not get the education to appreciate and know what Shabbos really is, fall under the category of tinik shenishba. But over here in our sugya, we're talking literally about somebody that does not know at all about Shabbos. He grew up in a place where he did not hear about the concept of Shabbos. That's when the Mishnah said that if he did melacha with such a kind of unawareness, that is, then it's only one shaygig that he was unaware of Shabbos, and therefore he's chayiv only once. Another scenario is also Gershon is Gayer lebein anochrim, a ger that became a ger amongst Goyim, and he wasn't taught, even though a bezdin had to be megayerim, but he wasn't taught the mitzvah of Shabbos. So the Rishayim discuss this over here. Taisvus discusses this. L'chayra, a ger has to be notified basic mitzvahs, and amongst them the mitzvah of Shabbos. So one of the tirutzim that Taisvus says over here is that they didn't let him know, and the gatus is still a kosher gatus without letting him know, although they should have. Or another teretz Taisvus says in another place is that he was nisgayed as a cotton. There's a halacha of a cotton shenisgayed together with his parents, and at that point, the cotton, they don't have to notify him all the mitzvahs, and therefore this individual does not know of the mitzvah of Shabbos at all. That's the case that the Mishnah says that it's one shaygig that he had no idea of the mitzvah of Shabbos, never heard of it, and therefore he's chayav one korban chatas. Aval hikir lebesayv shachach, but an individual that knows of the mitzvah of Shabbos, he did know the mitzvah of Shabbos. Elamai, right now, he forgot about this mitzvah. That's different. Hikir lebesayv shachach, chayiv akol Shabbos for Shabbos. He is chayiv separately for each Shabbos. In this case, it's going to be similar to a person that forgot that today is Shabbos. It's not a case that he doesn't know about Shabbos at all. He forgot about the fact that today is Shabbos, whether because he doesn't know the day of the week, or in this case, the person forgot about the mitzvah of Shabbos. So here, we do separate each Shabbos separately, and it'll be chayiv a separate korban for each Shabbos. That's the distinction that Rav and Shmuel make. Chayiv akol Shabbos for Shabbos. Frek the Gemara. Now let's take a look at the wording of our Mishnah. Nan, we learned in our Mishnah, Hashecheyach Iker Shabbos. He forgot about Shabbos. What does this mean? Forgot. Lav, don't you think this means Meklal Havi Yediyah? If it said that he forgot, so Meklal Havi Yediyah make kara, that originally he's aware and learned and knows about the mitzvah of Shabbos, but he just forgot. Hikir l'b'sayv shachach. That's the word Hashecheyach. So how could Rav and Shmuel say that our Mishnah is talking about an individual that never heard about Shabbos, a Tinnik Shenishbar or a Gershon is Gayer that never heard about Shabbos? So the Gemara answers, Loi, that's not the pshat in our Mishnah. Mai kola shecheach ikke Shabbos. How do you have to read these words that he was shecheach ikke Shabbos? Da'isa shchuach mimenu ikra shel Shabbos. Shecheach does not mean he forgot, but it was shechuach. It was forgotten from him. It was something that he never knew. That's the way you have to read the Mishnah. Avol, so the Gemara says, so what is the pshat over here? Hikr lo b'soif shachach, but if he did recognize, he did know Shabbos, and then he forgot, what's going to be the din chayiv? I'll call Shabbos for Shabbos, in such a case will be chayiv for each Shabbos separately. So let's go to the next case in the Mishnah. Why does the Mishnah say in the next case? A person that knows the mitzvah of Shabbos, never forgot the mitzvah of Shabbos. The only thing he forgot was that today is Shabbos. There, the Mishnah says, Chayav kol Shabbos for Shabbos, that he's going to be chayav every Shabbos. Why does the Mishnah say a bigger chiddush? Listen, let the Mishnah say, Hikir ulu b'soif shachach. A person that knew of Shabbos, and he forgot the mitzvah of Shabbos, that even then, because he once knew of Shabbos, each Shabbos is counted separately. Why does it only tell me the case of a person that still remembers Shabbos, the mitzvah of Shabbos, and he only forgot the day of the week? The kol shekain ha. If you tell me the halacha of a person that forgot about the mitzvah of Shabbos altogether, that then I separate one Shabbos from another, I would understand that for sure the same applies to a person that still knows the mitzvah of Shabbos, and he only forgot what day of the week it is, that I separate one Shabbos from another. So why doesn't the Tana say that? So the Gemara answers, Mai hayideya ikke Shabbos. What does it mean when the Tana of the Mishnah says that he's Yideya Ikke Shabbos, he knows Shabbos? So we learned until now, the pshat of this is, he knows Shabbos, but he only forgot the day of the week. But now the Gemara says, no, you know what we could say how Yideya Ikke Shabbos means? Mishahoya Yideya Ikra Shel Shabbos. He knew, in the past, he knew the mitzvah of Shabbos, V'shachacha, and he forgot the mitzvah of Shabbos. That's the case when he's going to be chayiv on every Shabbos separately, since he once knew the mitzvah of Shabbos. So in that case, and in the case, in this case where a person, now we're teaching Yideya Ikke Shabbos means Hoya Yideya Ikke Shabbos. He knew the Ikke Shabbos, and now he doesn't know Ikke Shabbos anymore. That's when he's going to be chayiv on each Shabbos separately. No, the Gemara goes a step further. Let's go to the next case of the Mishnah. So if so, it's mashma over here. If that's how you're interpreting the words of the Mishnah, so we're talking about a person that knew Shabbos and forgot about the mitzvah of Shabbos. But what if he did not forget about the mitzvah of Shabbos? He still knows the mitzvah of Shabbos. The only thing that he forgot is that today is Shabbos. What's going to be the din? Chayev al kol malacha malacha. In such a case, he would be chayiv on every single malacha. So as Rashi explains, since you're teaching the words of the Mishnah, Hayideya Ikke Shabbos, that it refers to a person that knows the day of the week, the only thing that he forgot is the mitzvah of Shabbos, and the Tana does not talk about a person that forgot about the day of the week, so then it will have to say that the Tana holds that a person that forgot the day of the week is in a different category. It's not included in this. Otherwise, the Tana would have mentioned this case as well. So if you forgot that today is Shabbos because you forgot the day of the week, then we're going to say that in such a case is chayiv for each malacha separately. If so, what does it say in the next case of the Mishnah? The Tani Hayidei Shu Shabbos Vasa Malachas Harbe B'Shabbos Harbe. In the next case of the Mishnah, it talks about a person that knows the day of the week. He only doesn't know that this malacha is aser. Then chayiv al kol malacha malacha. Only then does the Mishnah say that it's chayiv for each malacha separately. Listni. Why doesn't the Tana of the Mishnah say a bigger chiddush? Hayideya Ikke Shabbos, a person that knows the mitzvah of Shabbos, and he only forgot the day of the week, and then he's chayiv for each malacha separately. V'kol shekain ha, definitely a case where a person knows the day of the week, he knows Shabbos, and the only thing he forgot is the malacha. So since the shogeg is on the malacha, for sure he'd be chayiv each one separately. So now the Gemara brings it all the way to the end and corners it and says we can't learn the Mishnah this way. Ella, rather, we have to say something differently. Ella, we have to go back and look at what Rav and Shmuel said. They must have said something else. Masnisen, keshehikir, ule b'soif shachach. Going back to the first case of the Mishnah, when the Mishnah began in the first case, Hasheicheyach, Ikir, Shabbos, refers to an individual that knew of the mitzvah of Shabbos, and he forgot the mitzvah of Shabbos. Like the simple taich of the word Sheicheyach, he forgot. That's the taich even according to Rav and Shmuel. The Rav and Shmuel, Nami, now what Rav and Shmuel are saying is, Kehikir ulebesayv shachach dami. What they're adding to the Mishnah is that a child, a tinik shenishba, that never heard of Shabbos, is going to be compared to a person that knew of Shabbos and forgot of the mitzvah of Shabbos. And this is how you have to learn. Rav and Shmuel damri tarvayu. Rav and Shmuel both said, afilu tinik shenishba ben anachrim. Even a child that was raised amongst goyim, v'ger shenis gaila ben anachrim, a ger that became a ger amongst goyim, kehikir lebesayv shachach dami, will have the same halacha as somebody that knew Shabbos and forgot about the mitzvah of Shabbos. In both of these cases, the person is unaware, his shaygig, he's unaware of the mitzvah of Shabbos, and therefore now, whether he knew it once or he didn't know it once before, but he's unaware of the mitzvah of Shabbos, and therefore it's one shaygig, even if he did many malachas over many Shabbos, and therefore he's chayiv one korban chatos for that one shaygig. That was the chiddush of Rav, to compare a tinik shenishba to the case of a person that learned and knew and forgot. That by both of them, you chayiv one korban chatos. Rav Yechon and Rav Shimon ben Lakish damri tavayu. So now the Gemara brings another opinion of Rav Yechon and Rav Shimon ben Lakish that disagree. They both said dafke hikir lebesayv shachach, specifically a person that knew of the mitzvah of Shabbos, forgot the mitzvah. Then the halacha is going to be that he's chayiv one korban for each Shabbos. Sorry, again, he's going to be chayiv one korban for all the malachas that he did in all the Shabbos. Aval tinik shenishba ben anachrim v'gershin is garla ben anachrim, but a tinik shenishba or a ger that converted amongst goyim and never learned, was never aware of the mitzvah of Shabbos altogether, potter. It's completely potter of bringing any korban. What's the reason for this? So as Rashi over here says, Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish both hold that such a case is an oinus. A oimim mutter, a person that thinks that something is completely permitted. He never heard of the Isser. He thinks it's oimim mutter. He says it's permitted. It's an oinus and not a shaygig. And therefore he's potter. So that's the bottom line here. The Gemara, after the whole discussion, brings us a machlokes here between Rav and Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish regarding a child that grew up amongst goyim and never heard of the mitzvah of Shabbos. Would he be chayiv to bring a korban chatos for something that he was never aware of? Rav and Shmuel says this does fall into the category of a shaygig, even though it's not any fault of his own, but still it's a category of a shaygig and he has to bring a korban as a kapara. At the same time, Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish say, no, this is a case of oimim mutter, and therefore there's no korban at all. Meisvei, Gemara asks a question from a Braisa. We learned in the Braisa clearly about the subject. Klal Gadol Omru b'Shabbos. So the Braisa begins with the same quote that we had in our Mishnah, that there's a major rule regarding Shabbos. Kol hashechech Shabbos v'asem malachas harbe b'Shabbos harbe. He does not know about Shabbos, and he did many malachas over the span of many Shabbos. And echayev ela achas. There's one korban for the one shaygig that happened here. But then the Braisa spells out, Keitzad, what's the scenario here? Tinik shenishba ben anachrim, a child captured amongst goyim, gershin is gair ben anachrim, a ger that was converted amongst goyim, v'asam malachas harbe b'Shabbos harbe, and he did many malachas over the span of many Shabbos, and chayiv el achatas achas. He's chayiv only one korban chatos. This is clearly like what Rav and Shmuel said, as the Gemara is going to soon ask. Then the Braisa continues, v'chayev al adam achas, and also on the Isser of dam, he never heard of the Isser of eating or drinking blood, he's also chayev only once. V'al chaylev achas, and on chaylev he's chayev also only once. V'al avodah zarah achas, and also on avodah zarah he's chayev only once, since there's only one shaygig here, so therefore he's chayev only once. Munvaz paiter. Munvaz's opinion was that a person in such a case, tinik shenishba, is completely pater. V'kach hoya Munvaz done lifnei Rabbi Akiva. This is what Munvaz said in front of Rabbi Akiva. Hoya lemezit kari chayte. A person that does this, the chil Shabbos or any of these avedas b'mezit intentionally, he's a sinner and he needs a kapara for that. V'shaygig kari chayte. And a person that does a chilul Shabbos b'shoyig inadvertently is also a sinner. So we compare the two. Ma mezid shoysil yidiyah, just as in the case of a mezid. A mezid, of course, is an individual that has the awareness and he does the aveda anyways. Af shoyig, the same is true with a shoyig, although when he does the aveda he doesn't have an awareness. There's something he forgot. But a shoyig is only a person shoysil yidiyah, that he had the awareness before about this mitzvah or about this isser, and then he forgot. So we compare to this extent shegig to mezid, and therefore tinik shenishba that never had any awareness he's potter altogether. So Rabbi Akiva responds to Mumvaz and says to him, if you're comparing shegig to mezid, I'll add even more. In the case of a mezid, what makes him a mezid? The fact that he has an awareness while he's doing the Aveda that what he's doing is forbidden. Would I say the same thing, that a shegig is compared to a mezid, that he's doing the Aveda when he has the awareness b'shas ma'aseh? So in that case, he's not a shegig, he's a mezid. So what Rabbi Akiva is saying to Mumvaz is, why are you comparing shegig to mezid? Amaloi, Mumvaz responds to Rabbi Akiva, hang, this is correct. And it's for sure, it's true what you added. That in such a case, we were going to compare shegig to mezid, that a shegig is even a person that has an awareness while he's doing the Aveda. Amaloi, so Rabbi Akiva answers him, you're comparing it to such an extent, so then it's not a shegig anymore. Then he's a mezid. The Gemara will soon explain the pshat in this conversation over here, what Mumvaz means to say, that a shegig could have an awareness while he's doing the Aveda and still be a shegig. We'll see that soon later in the Gemara Mitzshem tomorrow. But what is Negeya for us over here now? We had the argument between Rav and Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish regarding a tinik shenishba. Katani miya, it says clearly here in this braise, Keitzad, what's the case of Shecheach Ikke Shabbos? Tinik, in the case of a tinik shenishba. So Bishleim Rav Shmuel Niche. So this is clear, a raya to Rav and Shmuel, that when the Mishnah said Shecheach, it doesn't only mean someone that forgot, but it also means a tinik shenishba. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, according to them, Kashya. So there's a question here. We clearly see that the Mishnah includes even a tinik shenishba. That's the way the Braisa explains our Mishnah. So the Gemara answers. The answer is right here in this Braisa. Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish. No. Mi ikke munves the potter. Isn't there munves that says that you're potter, that a tinik shenishba is potter? Anan damrinan ke munves. We say that the halach is like munves. We're teaching like munves that says that shecheach in the Mishnah is only shecheach and not someone that never knew about the mitzvah of Shabbos altogether. So here in this Braisa, we see that the machlekes of Rav and Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish is the machlekes of the Tanakama and Mumvaz, or Rabbi Akiva really, and Mumvaz that discussed this subject. Okay, the Gemara from here on is now going to ring the Psukim to explain the machlekes here between these Tanaim and Amirayim, whether a tinik shenishba is included in this or not. As we'll see in Mitzvah Shem, the Hemshech of the Gemara tomorrow.